It's happening. What Donald Trump just did fulfills a major Bible prophecy. The complete history of Trump and the Abrahamic Accords. Is this Bible prophecy the move that shocked the world? Trump announces that the United States officially recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and that the U.S. Embassy would be moved there from Tel Aviv. The reaction? Immediate outrage from Palestinian leaders. Protests across the Arab world. The United Nations condemns it. World leaders call it reckless. But here's what's fascinating. Trump's evangelical Christian base, they saw something completely different. They saw a modern leader doing what they believed was biblically mandated. But Trump wasn't done reshaping the region. He withdraws the United States from the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, that Obama had carefully negotiated. And then came maximum pressure, sanctions, isolation, the Soleimani strike in January 2020. Now, stay with me here, because this is crucial to understanding what comes next. When you squeeze Iran, who gets nervous? Iran's neighbors. The Sunni Gulf monarchies, the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. They're watching Iran's aggression, the drone attacks on Saudi oil facilities, the threats, the proxy wars. And they're thinking, we need protection. We need allies. We need technology. And suddenly, Israel, with its Iron Dome, its intelligence network, its cybersecurity expertise, starts looking less like an enemy and more like a partner. June 25, 2019. An economic workshop in Manama, Bahrain. It's called Peace to Prosperity, and it's led by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The vision? $50 billion in investment for Middle East peace. Infrastructure projects, joint ventures, a completely economic approach to a problem everyone else tried to solve politically. Palestinian leaders boycott it. They call it a bribe to forget about statehood. And if you're someone who studies biblical prophecy, you're starting to notice something. Because there's this theme that runs through the prophets, this idea that in the last days, nations will realign, treaties will form, Israel will be at the center. And you're asking yourself, could this be how it starts? Could this businessman's deal-making theology be aligning America with something bigger than politics? By blessing Israel, by squeezing Iran, by offering economic incentives to Arab states, could Trump have been setting the stage for the very alliances and the very covenants that ancient prophets warned would emerge before the end? That question is about to get a lot more complicated. Because what happens next moves faster than anyone expected. Discovery 2. History is made. August 13th, 2020. A tweet from President Trump's account that stops the Middle East in its tracks. Huge breakthrough today. Historic peace agreement between our two great friends, Israel and the United Arab Emirates. 26 years. That's how long it had been since an Arab nation recognized Israel. Jordan in 1994. And before that, Egypt in 1979. 2 countries in more than 70 years. And now, with one tweet, that freeze was over. But here's what makes this so extraordinary. It wasn't just a recognition. It was full normalization, diplomatic relations, embassies in each other's capitals, direct flights, free trade, tourism, technology partnerships, the whole package. Hours later, Trump is in the Rose Garden, and he's not holding back. This is a truly historic breakthrough. The first peace deal between Israel and an Arab nation in more than a quarter century. And there will be more to follow. More to follow. Remember that phrase. Because he's right. But first, let's understand what just happened and why it matters. Not just politically, but prophetically. On the surface, this is about economics and security. Israel gets legitimacy in the Arab world. The UAE gets F-35 jets, advanced weapons, and intelligence sharing. Both countries get trade, and by 2021, we're talking about $3 billion in bilateral trade. Within weeks, there are direct commercial flights. El Al, Israel's airline, flying right over Saudi airspace to land in Dubai. The first time an Israeli commercial flight is allowed to cross Saudi territory. It's happening fast. But let's talk about what this means for Christians who study prophecy, because this is where it gets really compelling. There's a passage in Isaiah 19, verses 23 through 25, that's fascinated biblical scholars for centuries. Let me read it to you. In that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. The Assyrians will go to Egypt, and the Egyptians to Assyria. The Egyptians and Assyrians will worship together. In that day, Israel will be the third, along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. The Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, "Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance." Now, Assyria, in ancient times, covered what we today call Iraq, Syria, and parts of Turkey. But some scholars extend this to include the broader Middle East region, which would include the Gulf states. And the prophecy speaks of a day when these nations, Egypt, Assyria, and Israel, would be united, would worship together, would be a blessing on the earth. Could the Abraham Accords be the beginning of that highway? Or is that reading too much into it? Because there's a darker side to this story. Palestinian leaders feel betrayed. The UAE promised to support Palestinian statehood. That was the long-standing Arab position. No recognition of Israel until justice for Palestinians. But the UAE just broke that covenant. Hamas calls it a stab in the back of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian Authority recalls its ambassador from Abu Dhabi. And across the Arab world, public opinion polls show that while governments are celebrating, ordinary citizens are conflicted. In Jordan, only 20% support the deal. In Egypt, opposition runs even higher. So here's the tension. Is this peace, or is this a kind of abandonment? A decision by wealthy Arab states to move on without waiting for justice. And then there's Iran. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, calls it treacherous. Iran's foreign minister says the UAE will be engulfed by fire. Because remember, this isn't just about Israel and the UAE. This is about surrounding Iran. This is about building a coalition. But Trump wasn't finished. Not even close. Because what he said in that rose garden, there will be more to follow, he meant it. And what comes next? What happens on the White House lawn 1 month later is the moment that changes everything. Discovery 3. The Dawn of a New Middle East, September 15, 2020. It's a Tuesday morning, and the White House South Lawn is being transformed into something Washington hasn't seen in a generation. 3 flags are going up: the United States, Israel, and not one, but 2 Arab nations, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Because this isn't just about the UAE anymore. In the month since that first announcement, Trump's team convinced Bahrain to join. 2 Arab nations normalizing with Israel on the same day. And for anyone who understands Middle Eastern history, for anyone who remembers the decades of rejection, the wars, the hostility, this is seismic. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives first. then Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, the UAE's foreign minister, then Abdulatif al-Zayani, Bahrain's foreign minister, 700 guests, military honor guards, a military band playing, the media from around the world, and President Trump walking out to preside over what he clearly believes is his greatest foreign policy achievement. Listen to how Trump frames this moment. We're here this afternoon to change the course of history. After decades of division and conflict, we mark the dawn of a new Middle East. The dawn of a new Middle East. Not just a peace deal, a new era. And then he says something that sends electricity through the millions of Christians watching. These agreements are called the Abraham Accords, named after the father of the three great faiths. The father of three great faiths, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all tracing their spiritual lineage back to Abraham. And now, nations from those faiths signing a covenant named after that shared patriarch. 3 copies of the Abraham Accords Declaration. Netanyahu signs for Israel. Bin Zayed signs for the UAE. Al-Zayani signs for Bahrain. And Trump signs as witness. His signature in bold black ink, alongside the leaders who just made history. But here's what millions of evangelical Christians are thinking as they watch this ceremony unfold. And I want to be very clear. This isn't about knowing whether they're right or wrong. This is about understanding why this moment feels so prophetically charged to them. Because there's a prophecy in the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27, that has been debated and analyzed for over 2,000 years. It's one of the most controversial verses in all of biblical prophecy. Let me read it to you. He will confirm a covenant with many. Now, who is he in this prophecy? Traditional interpretation says it's the Antichrist, a future world leader who will broker a peace agreement, a covenant with many involving Israel. And this covenant is supposed to trigger a 7-year period of tribulation. So, when evangelical Christians watch Trump, a leader they already see through the lens of Cyrus, the Persian king who helped rebuild Jerusalem, when they watch him broker not just one peace deal, but multiple deals with multiple nations all at once. When they see the phrase, covenant with many. When they see it centered on Israel and the Middle East. You can understand why some of them are asking, could this be it? Could this be the covenant Daniel warned about? Now, most evangelical leaders are quick to say, no, this isn't that. Trump isn't the Antichrist. This is a good thing. This is fulfilling Genesis 12:3, blessing Israel. And many add, the real covenant with many might come later, and the Abraham Accords could be setting the stage for it. But the conversation is happening. And there's another prophecy that's getting a lot of attention during this ceremony. It's from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 2 and 3. For you know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. While people are saying peace and safety. And on the South Lawn, that's exactly what Trump is saying. The word peace appears 17 times in his speech. Safety and security are repeated over and over. Is this the peace and safety Paul warned about? The peace that comes right before sudden destruction? Or, and this is just as possible, is this simply good diplomacy being interpreted through a prophetic lens by people who are looking for signs? Because here's what's objectively happening. Israel is gaining recognition from nations that refuse to acknowledge its existence for 72 years. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain are getting security guarantees and weapons. Trade is opening up. Tourism is starting. Technology partnerships are forming. Fox News says it's historic and deserving of a Nobel Prize. Arab media is divided. Some celebrate, some condemn. And Palestinian leaders? They're watching in disbelief. Because the Arab world just moved on without them. 70 years of Arab League policy. No peace, no recognition, no negotiation with Israel until Palestinian statehood. Just crumbled in one afternoon. But Trump's not done. Not even close. Because over the next 3 months, 2 more nations are going to sign on. And when they do, the prophetic implications are going to get even more complicated. Discovery 4. Aftershocks. September 11th, 2020. 4 days before the White House ceremony, Trump is on a 3-way phone call with King Hamad of Bahrain and Netanyahu. And by the end of that call, Bahrain is in. Now, Bahrain is interesting because it's small, tiny, actually. An island nation in the Persian Gulf with barely 2 million people. But it punches way above its weight strategically because Bahrain hosts the U.S. Fifth Fleet. It's the headquarters for American naval operations in one of the most volatile regions on Earth. And Bahrain's population? 70% Shia Muslim, ruled by a Sunni monarchy, with Iran right across the water backing Shia unrest. Bahrain needs protection. And normalizing with Israel, getting access to Israeli intelligence, missile defense, cybersecurity, that's life insurance. But there's more to the story. Bahrain almost never makes moves without Saudi approval. And Saudi Arabia, the heavyweight of the Arab world, isn't ready to publicly normalize with Israel yet. Too controversial, too much domestic opposition. But by allowing Bahrain to sign, by opening Saudi airspace to Israeli flights, by staying quiet instead of condemning, Saudi Arabia is signaling, we're okay with this. So now it's 2 Arab nations. UAE in August, Bahrain in September. Both signed at the White House ceremony. And the momentum is building. October 23rd, 2020. Trump announces that Sudan is joining the Abraham Accords. And this one is complicated. But here's what's biblically significant about Sudan joining. Remember Ezekiel 38? That prophecy about Gog and Magog attacking Israel with a coalition of nations? Let me remind you of the nations it lists. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them, all with shields and helmets. Persia is Iran. We've talked about that. But Cush? In ancient times, that referred to the region south of Egypt, what we now call Sudan and Ethiopia. So Ezekiel's prophecy lists Sudan as part of the coalition that will attack Israel. But in October 2020, Sudan just signed a peace deal with Israel instead. Sudan flipped sides. Now, you can interpret this a couple of ways. You can say, see? The prophecy is being thwarted. Peace is breaking out instead of war. But prophecy talks about the end times, and alliances shift. Sudan could flip again. We don't know. But what we do know is that a nation mentioned in one of the most famous end times prophecies just normalized relations with Israel. And that's significant, no matter how you interpret it. December 7th, 2020. And now Morocco. But Morocco has a significant Jewish population historically, and about 1 million Moroccan Jews live in Israel today. There's cultural connection, but Morocco wants something. And it's controversial. The Western Sahara. It's a disputed territory that Morocco claims, but the international community mostly doesn't recognize that claim. But Morocco signs, And suddenly, Israel has 4 new Arab partners: United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco. 4 deals in 4 months, after 26 years of nothing. And Trump, in the final weeks of his presidency, is taking a victory lap. He's giving speeches, writing tweets, holding it up as proof that his approach worked. January 6, 2021. Sudan formally signs the Abraham Accords in Khartoum, completing its entry into the agreements. The same day as the Capitol riot in Washington. The same day American democracy is under assault. And 2 weeks before Trump leaves office. It's a surreal ending to a surreal year. But the Abraham Accords survive the chaos. They're ratified, they're law, they're treaties. And as Trump boards Marine One for the last time on January 20th, 2021, he leaves behind something that nobody can deny. He changed the Middle East. The question is, did he change it permanently? Or did he just set the stage for what comes next? Discovery 5. The silence between administrations. January 20th, 2021. Joe Biden takes the oath of office, and immediately, the question becomes, what happens to the Abraham Accords? Because Biden didn't broker these deals. His team was skeptical of them. Many Democrats criticized the Accords for sidelining Palestinians, for rewarding authoritarian regimes, for focusing on economics instead of human rights. So, will Biden let them die? Will he reverse course? The answer surprises a lot of people. No, he keeps them. The Biden administration maintains the Abraham Accords. They honor the commitments. The embassies stay open. The flights continue. The trade keeps growing. In fact, by the end of 2021, bilateral trade between Israel and the UAE alone hits $3 billion. Technology partnerships are flourishing. Israeli tourists are flooding Dubai. Emirati investors are pouring money into Israeli startups. The Abraham Accords Business Forum is meeting regularly, signing deals. In 2022, trade expands even more, toward $10 billion annually when you include all 4 signatory nations. So economically, the accords are working. They're real. They're generating wealth and cooperation. But here's what Biden doesn't do: expand them. There are no new signatories, no new ceremonies, no big push to bring in Saudi Arabia, which everyone knows is the real prize. Because if Saudi Arabia normalizes with Israel, the entire Arab world would likely follow. But Saudi Arabia has conditions. They want something for the Palestinians, at minimum, a freeze on settlement expansion, maybe a path to a future Palestinian state. And Biden can't get Netanyahu to agree to that. So the Accords plateau. They exist, but they're not growing. They're maintained, but not championed. And for prophecy watchers, this period is frustrating. Because in 2020, it felt like momentum, like something building, like alliances forming rapidly, possibly setting up prophetic scenarios. But now, silence, stagnation. It's like the world took a breath. Like everyone hit pause. The world moves on to other crises. But in the Middle East, tensions are building, quietly, under the surface. In Gaza, Hamas is watching these deals with rage, watching wealthy Arab nations abandon the Palestinian cause, watching Israel get stronger, more accepted, more integrated into the region. And Hamas is planning. In Iran, the regime is watching too. Watching the Sunni-Israeli alliance solidify, watching its influence being boxed in, watching sanctions choke its economy. And Iran is arming its proxies. In the West Bank, young Palestinians are growing more radicalized. because they see the world forgetting about them. They see peace deals that don't include them. They see their leadership, both Fatah and Hamas, weak and divided. And across the Arab world, public opinion is hardening. Governments may have signed the Abraham Accords, but the people? Polls show 70% opposition in Egypt, Jordan, even among young people in the Gulf. The Accords are like a fragile glass sculpture. Beautiful, valuable, but one hard blow, and it could shatter. The question is, when will that blow come? As 2022 ends and 2023 begins, there's a sense in the region that something is shifting, that this quiet can't last forever. And for Christians who believe in biblical prophecy, there's a verse they keep coming back to. We mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating. 1 Thessalonians 5:3. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. The Abraham Accords are holding. Peace is being proclaimed. Safety is being celebrated. But the prophetic pattern warns. That's when sudden destruction comes. And on October 7th, 2023, it does. Discovery 6. Return of the Broker. January 20th, 2025. The U.S. Capitol. A cold, clear day. Donald Trump raises his right hand and is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. His second term begins, and within days, the signals start. Calls with Netanyahu, meetings with Gulf leaders, Kushner back in the Middle East, plans for a major peace summit. Trump wastes no time. He announces his intention to supercharge the Abraham Accords and bring Saudi Arabia into the agreement. But he doesn't stop there. He starts talking about Gaza, about reconstruction, about turning the devastation of war into an opportunity for economic transformation. And this is where things get prophetic again. Because Trump isn't just talking about restarting the Accords. He's talking about expanding them, making them bigger, more comprehensive. He's talking about rebuilding. It sounds noble. It sounds like hope. But here's where the tension sits. When a leader returns to finish a covenant, when he promises peace, security, and reconstruction on a scale that involves multiple nations and billions of dollars, prophecy doesn't just watch. It connects dots. Daniel 9:27 comes up again. The covenant with many. And people start asking, is this the covenant? Or is this laying the groundwork for the covenant? Because Trump's second term isn't about maintaining peace. It's about completing it. And completion feels final. So here's the stake. And what happens next will determine whether this story ends with diplomacy or destiny. Discovery 7. The Gaza Peace Plan. September, October 2025. September 2025. President Trump unveils what he calls the 20-point Gaza Peace Plan. It's comprehensive, ambitious, some say audacious. Here's what it includes: immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, demilitarization of Gaza, international peacekeeping forces, a massive reconstruction fund, $50 billion over 10 years, economic integration with Israel and Egypt, governance reforms, security guarantees for Israel, pathways for Palestinian self-governance, 20 points, 20 commitments. And Trump doesn't just announce it from the White House, he takes it global. October 2025. Trump hosts a summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. 59 nations attend. 59. Leaders from across the Middle East, Europe, Africa, Asia, the United Nations, the Arab League, the European Union, all gathered around one goal: implement the Gaza peace plan and expand the Abraham Accords. It's the largest Middle East peace summit in history. Cameras flash, handshakes, speeches about hope, cooperation, security, prosperity. And to find how it ends, click here.